Well, hello there, and gosh, happy fall. Don't we have some lovely weather outside? A little bit interesting weather today. Let me just adjust my settings here because you're a little dark. Ah, much better, much better. We have a great series that kicks off today. It's running all week. So today's is going to be at 2 p.m., but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week are all at 11 a.m., and Friday is a very special 12:30 p.m. session. Today kicks off the entire series. Now, the series is about tuning up both your career materials, which is your resume, LinkedIn, how you present yourself across emails, other communications, but also how you organize and manage your job search itself. What is the structure of a real job search, an effective job search? Well, all of that we're going to cover today. And gosh, maybe I should be a little bit larger in this group here. Let me just clear my notices because you know how that goes. All of these things tend to come up all at once. And back over to our screen. So as we get moving today is supercharging your job search. This will be all on how to organize, manage, and really prioritize what to do in your job search. It becomes very stressful. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do that? Much more scary thing. We're going to get into it all. Tomorrow, we'll talk about resume renovation. This is how to make your resume really work for you. Wednesday, we're going to follow that up with how to take your resume over to LinkedIn, but then transform your LinkedIn profile into a three-dimensional sales brochure. All about you that naturally drives the reader to one singular conclusion. If I work with or buy or hire from this person, best business decision I make today. That's the LinkedIn profile. Then Thursday, we're going to take that even further, which is really my part 2 to my LinkedIn called Career Evolution, preparing for your career's next leap with social media marketing. Subtitle really could be, now that I have a LinkedIn profile, what do I do with it? It's all about building and managing a very simple social media marketing campaign to increase your brand value across your career. Friday, we are rounding out the week with a very special interview intervention, all the secrets that a recruiter uses to have their person be the real standout in the field. All these secrets you can use to yourself. And then we'll be back here on Monday. Yes, that is Halloween. We'll be back here on Monday for a very, very special Ask Self Recruiter live Q&A. So all week long, collect your questions. Of course, you can put them into chat. If we don't handle questions here, send them in to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. And all the best ones are always included in those live Ask Self Recruiter sessions. Well, let's get moving into today. This is supercharging your job search. You know, the tragedy to me, and I've given talks in so many places, the New York Public Library, New York State Department of Labor, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, many, many others, a lot of the CUNY schools as well. And to me, the sadness is that people think that job search is sitting on the internet looking for job postings. To me, that's absolute tragedy because the individual is wasting 50% of their available resource. As a job seeker, we only have one available resource. That is our time. And yet that person who simply sits on the internet looking for job postings is wasting 50% of their available time because about half of all job postings you see are not real in the first place. And they're not real based on how they are sold. It used to be VP over 100 office recruiting system. I'll share more about my background as we go along. So I did all the national contracts. I can tell you exactly how those job postings are sold. If you want any kind of a deal, you buy them one time per year. How many job postings could I use this next year? Let me go to my sales rep. Let's do a little horse trading and sign that contract. Those are use them or lose them in 12 months. They have no idea 6 months or up to a year ago what they're supposed to be hiring today. And very quickly, that slippery slope of all those job postings I own that have to be used turns into let's post what we typically hire someday, which has very little relevance on today. That ends up with about half of all postings you see. They're not really ready to hire. They're window shopping. They're endlessly building banks of talent, but not really the ones you should be investing your time on. To me, that's tragedy. I'm going to show you a very new method to supercharge your job search, and that is by taking control. Now, if you've not seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you are suffering from poor storytelling, not poor delivery in your career, maybe you've knocked it out of the ballpark, but keep not quite getting what you like, or maybe today people don't really see you at the same level that you really know that you are. That's a career branding issue. And I help my clients across resume, across LinkedIn profile, their communication, their outreach. So if you need help, check out my Self Recruiter website right under the services tab. So as we move forward here, it's a sales process. That's what job search is. So we may not like that. Well, it's two things we don't like. It's a sales process, which we certainly don't like. And it's a dating process, which we really, really don't like. And sales and dating mixed together. I can't imagine anything that's too much worse than that. By the way, you're taking a look at my book, which is a very good roadmap for how you solve a lot of different problems. And you guessed it, it's over on selfrecruiter.com, also over on Amazon. You can get it very, very easily. Another resource that'll help you, even though this is the subject of tomorrow's lecture, this is a very special version of my LinkedIn lecture. It's right on my Self Recruiter website, about halfway down the page. It's totally free. You can see me large, or you can see the slides large. And really, you can see that as a start and stop tutorial while you build a better LinkedIn profile. That's in addition to tomorrow's lecture, which is a live version of that. A few other resources, then I promise you we're going to kick it completely into full gear. 5 keys to supercharging your job search, piggybacks on today's content and lecture. How to avoid the biggest mistake in job search. I'm guessing you might know which mistake that might be. And how to not let your resume become resume roadkill, which we'll certainly talk a lot more in the next few days as we talk about a resume renovation lecture. That LinkedIn lecture, by the way, is on Wednesday, not tomorrow, but Wednesday. So what are all the ways that we can find a new job? Well, if we really split hairs, let's think of all the different ways. Well, I could see this job, or I could hear about a job posting, or I could hear about a need. Hear about a need. You know, there's a need before there's ever a job posting. If there's a pain point of some sort, and if you can get to that organization or that department or that manager while they're in pain, you'll be first in line. If you wait until the pain grows so strong that they put up the job posting, then get in line with everybody else. So perceptiveness pays off. Uncover a lead to our network. Absolutely. Network. Most of us don't really feel like we have a network today. We'll talk more about that. The rest is kind of a lot of hunt and search. Think of like a detective. Think of Sherlock Holmes. So jobs or leads to jobs through our network, our colleagues or past colleagues, or HR individuals. HR individuals, like when they offer me a job? No, I mean like when they don't offer you a job. Remember, they speak to a lot of people they really do like and really do like their value. You're not right for this role. They could help you into many other places or even introduce you to other organizations. HR people are very interconnected and very networked. So impress the HR individual, it can go a lot of different ways, but not if we never pursue that. We have to think about that. Hiring managers, again, I mean, when they don't hire you, I mean, when I'm number 2, yes. Do you know what number 2 is? And number 3, by the way? A winner. You come in 1, 2, or 3, you are a winner. They just didn't select you. You wouldn't be 1, 2, or 3 if you weren't a winner. But I loved you. In fact, I loved you. In fact, I liked you even the best. But I hired this one because they're a much better chemistry fit with my team. So yes, I mean, going back to these individuals and understanding how you go back there and feel the relationship and see who they can introduce you to. Even receptionists. Yes, absolutely. It can open a lot of doors. A lot of chatty Cathys who are up at the receptionist desk, maybe pre-pandemic time, and they just couldn't help themselves. I've been interviewing here, interviewing there. They know a lot of what's going on, so we have to keep that in mind. Companies might call us, recruiters might call us. Sure, those are all things. Maybe career development or alumni offices, those are all things. A lot of different things on that list, but most of it leaves us in a very unhappy place with our job search, which drives us right back to sitting on the internet, looking for job postings, wasting half of our time. So I would advise this as your mantra, as your message, as your guiding principle. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. And I live at Grand Street FDR in Chinatown, or east of Chinatown here in New York City. And that means I get into Chinatown very early in the morning, especially pre-pandemic times, back to the subway, that kind of thing. And like most New Yorkers, I have a million things going through my mind, or at least 5,000 at once. and I'm like, lead, follow, get out of the way. I have to get to my destination. And I look up and I see this gigantic hog walking down the street up on this guy's shoulder. I'm like, wow, look at that. I don't know if you've seen one of those things in real life. A lot of bacon on there, very, very large. My first thought was really, why isn't this guy toppling over? Because huge, but he was a very stout guy. So I'm like, okay, I get that. And this was on his t-shirt. Oh, that hog caught the attention. Absolutely. But what can't get out of my mind is, don't let somebody else think for yourself. You need to get out of the back seat. You need to put down that mobile device. You need to put down the tablet. You need to get behind the wheel, or you're not likely to get to the destination you're imagining. And that means not following the directions other people tell you, but charting your own course. So the true guiding principle is really this. Is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? If we're engaged in very powerful, interesting, valuable things, you certainly have more things to do than you have time to accomplish. Therefore, it's a constant triage situation. And so when you find yourself going, oh my gosh, what should I do next? Is this the most valuable use of my time at this moment? A few years back, or a number of years back, I'm sitting on my home office couch, sending out press releases one at a time. At that point, I'd written my book. I'd had other things out there, but I wasn't quoted in the media yet. How can I be an expert if I'm not quoted in the media? I'm like, how do I get those things? Not so unlike how you get a job search or land the job. You work backwards. You imagine the result, work backward like a detective to uncover the steps. And what I did was I put together a list of 50 journalists that write about my career topics. How did I do it? I went to Google. I clicked the news tab. I put in a few keywords about what I talk about and what I share as pearls of wisdom. And up came articles, because I clicked the news tab, all over the country, doesn't really matter where, all attached to journalists that write about my subject matter. Now I've got a list of 50 journalists, target journalists, really. I can send out my press release introducing a new voice in job search with some of the things that they want to hear, little writing samples, quick turnaround, engaging stories, blah, blah, blah. Here's the credibility piece, sent all that out. Of course, that all has to go out one at a time. And I'm going, is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? And I won that article, or I won that argument. Because 2 hours later, I got a call from the Wall Street Journal. Yes, I did not like what I was doing, for sure. But I'd intellectually decided it was worth the investment. So I went back to it, just send them out, John, just send them out, and ding, 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 ding. Wall Street Journal wants to speak to you. You get the Wall Street Journal, and very quickly the others come behind it very quickly. This will keep you on track. This will keep you from spending too much time on the low-hanging fruit when you need to do more strategic investment for your job search. So overall, we're going to have a daily or weekly plan with a lot more detail that will cover sending out for jobs, or sending out resumes, or searching for those combination of things, or the following up on the opportunities we have sent out. And we have to strategize, because we're supposed to get smarter every time that we do it. What works, what didn't work, what else could I try, type thing. And of course, we have to really be marketing ourselves to decision makers. Let's cover what decision makers are, or who they are. You know who's in HR? People that hire HR individuals. People, they do not hire other people in the company. They facilitate that hiring. HR folks hire HR folks. So if you'd like to reach out to an HR manager to be hired within HR, you know exactly where they are. If you'd like to be introducing yourself to other managers that you might report to, they're in other departments, not in HR. So marketing ourselves to hiring managers is a very important thing. Then, of course, we have to review those goals. It has to make sense. And wherever we are in the process, we either have to take our first step or the next step. And this is something like a rusty old lawnmower that doesn't want to start after all winter long, choking as we try to start it. Eventually, the engine will start because we repeat. Now, structuring and building our job search plan of action, we're going to take through building out a full plan. The core is very simple. If you just did these steps without much more detail that I'll give you, your job search would improve dramatically. And that is to reverse the entire process. Why don't we simply, rather than sitting on the internet looking for job postings, why don't I simply make a list of the 30 companies I'm dying to work for? Dying to work for. I know that sounds like a lot, right? Okay, maybe that's tough. I bet you can come up with 10. You can come up with 10 companies you're dying to work for, right? By the way, the dying to work there cannot be because you see some open job. That's about you. This is a date. So it has to be about them. So my dying to work there has to be like, oh, I'm dying to work for Apple or whoever it may be, because you like their brand, or you like their product, or you like whatever they're doing. There's something about them you like. So it has to be something like that kind of emotional connection, resonance. Those are people they'd like to hire. Now, if you stack rank that list, who's the most important company, most valuable to my background, if I landed there, you now know how to prioritize. Then we have to sit and think about the 25 to 30 people that somehow surround that job, up, right, down, left, all around, maybe even into other departments. Who would interact with this person? I got to think about those people. I have to begin to open their profiles on LinkedIn to cause a marketing effect of, look at me, I'm looking at you. Here's my nice background. Don't you need a person just like me? Don't you? Open their profiles. I ask them to connect. We'll explain all that to you. Then out of all of that, without waiting for a single answer, because this is job search, which is sales process, so there's no waiting for any answer here. I ask whatever question or I send out whatever, no waiting for the response. Next step is to email 3, 4, or 5 decision makers directly. Now, ideally, sure, I'm looking for the boss or the boss's boss, or maybe even the boss's boss's boss, but really anybody about on that level that I perceive. If I reach out to 3, 4, 5 decision makers, I very likely have the boss right in that group. If I've missed the target just ever so slightly somehow, everybody in that group knows the boss. All I have to do is impress these folks. They'll introduce you to the boss right away. So of course, I'm going to email those 3, 4, 5 decision makers as if they're the only person in the world. They each can't know about each other, or no one responds. Your job is to book a meeting, to sell, repeat, get this engine moving. Now let's break this down, because broad strokes are one thing, but a little more detail will help you. So back to this concept of the sales process, that is what we have to do to get the job. If it was really quite that easy, the steps will help you. The dilemma is everybody's sitting home hitting that darn button. Let me clarify something that I get really clear with all my clients. I am not a fan of people applying online for jobs. Did you hear that clearly? I'm not a fan of people applying online for jobs. The problem is that this is going, in most cases, to some gigantic system to try to filter you, to try to spit out way too many few of the right resumes for someone that's not qualified to review you in most cases, to look through and to try to select the magical person. I see that as not far off from stopping at the bodega on the way home to buy a lottery ticket. Now, I did just last week because it hit like $500 million, and I don't play the lottery very often, but if you're not in it, you can't win it. And I did not win it. So here I am, although I would still be here even if I did win it, because this is what I love to do and how I can contribute. So if that whole system doesn't really work, I mean, you wouldn't plan your financial future by stopping at the bodega for the lottery ticket, would you? So if that system really doesn't work so much, how much risk are you taking to try a different route? I encourage my own clients, rather than applying online, which would typically go through the system and end up at an HR individual, which is the right destination if you'd like to work in HR. Otherwise, their mission in life is to rule you out. What's wrong with this one? What's wrong with this one? What's wrong with this one? It's not because they're bad people. That's because that's how you get to the very best of the best, looking for what's wrong to sort down to the gravy. So why don't we short circuit that system? Because those folks aren't really qualified. They don't have the background to review your job. Why don't you get right to the decision maker, where 90 seconds of conversation, they know exactly why you're right for that job, or not. Can't talk yourself into a job you're not right for. So let's break this cycle of unhappiness by going directly to the decision maker. A lot of detail. That's Wednesday's session. Sorry, I said Tuesday earlier. Wednesday's session for LinkedIn. A lot of details on how to directly outreach to the decision maker on Wednesday. So come back for that. Self-recruiter is about taking control, taking steps that put you in the decision of which choice, which way do I go. It involves problem solving, but it also involves this sales process. So we need a real job search plan. You heard the overall umbrella approach, but let's drill down. So in terms of selecting the companies or organizations, I'm simply going to have to give myself permission to work backwards. I mean, what John says isn't really possible, but if it were, how could I work backwards, aligning the sun, the moon, the stars, working backwards to figure out the steps? Devising the steps. It's not difficult. Think a little bit like Sherlock Holmes. If it were possible, how would it work? Discover the decision makers. Well, I teach you that. In fact, I think it's further on this lecture, but it's also on Wednesday's lecture. So that one, you'll see step by step how to find decision makers using LinkedIn. What was their title? I'm sorry, decision maker. What's their job? To object to you. That is how they figure out who is valuable, who is not valuable, who has something interesting to say. They throw an objection out there. They throw a stone, they throw a rock, and they want to see how you overcome that obstacle. So very important. Don't let objections throw you. When I hear someone object, I go, ooh, I can't wait. They want to hear how I can dazzle. Get a meeting, dazzle them. That is the entire point. Either get that job or have them create the job for you. That's the basic job search plan. So these 30 companies, we want them to be statistically perfect for you. Now, there's the ones that you love. Absolutely. That's a great place to start. But even better might be statistically perfect companies. In detail, I show you how to do that on Wednesday. We'll show you a little bit of it today going through LinkedIn. But this is the first thing a good recruiter does. If you met with a recruiter, now most people don't have a great experience with recruiters because they may be ordinary candidates. Nothing wrong with them, but ordinary. Recruiters can really only sell extraordinary candidates, sometimes ordinary, but mostly extraordinary. And so that's where there's a little bit of disconnect. But if a recruiter meets someone extraordinary, the first thing they do is put together a statistically perfect list of 30 companies that would hire them tomorrow if they had an opening. And then they don't bother to look at those company websites. They don't bother to look at the job boards. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and magically every single time, 2, 3, or 4 out of the 30 go, I need a person just like this. You do? Tell me about what's going on with your team. Tell me about the problem. Tell me what you're looking to solve, which changes everything. Statistically perfect lists change everything because you're traveling in the right lane, the correct lane. Now, nothing too earth-shattering here. I'm sure by now you've probably seen some sort of a sales funnel. This is the job search sales funnel. This is what it is. If you don't have a plan, not a lot happens. This is also like distilling liquor. If you've ever been to a distillery, or years and years ago, I got to tour the Jack Daniel's distillery, and these gigantic vats, 2 stories tall, charcoal, and drip, drip, drip into the top. And it goes through all of that till they get the gold out of the bottom. So same thing here. A lot of activity has to go into the top of this funnel. That's the awareness to create interest and to create consideration, maybe toward an offer. But if you'd like choice, you have to learn to juggle. You have to be approaching 10 organizations or companies simultaneously with the goal of generating one brand new, not next level, but brand new interview per week. That keeps lots of fresh energy and blood in your job search, lots of things going on, and the right level of activity that you'll stay very excited about what you offer, rather than going down that other shredder that we tend to go through that eats away our confidence. So as part of this process, I'm going to create those companies. I'm going to begin to select now the individuals. Hopefully I've stacked ranked the companies, so I'm going after the most valuable one first. I'm going to select 25 to 30 individuals. I'm either seeing or imagining where I am on the organizational chart. Oh, I think I'm about here. Great. Now, looking through LinkedIn, I'm going to go up and down the different titles, and I'm looking for people that are, I imagine they interface with this person almost every day. And I simply open the profiles, and I'm going to ask them to connect. Both of those are taking 2 fish hooks, sliding a worm on each one, and tossing them out into the pond where they can both wiggle around, waiting for someone to click on your name to open your sales brochure. That's your LinkedIn profile. So when I connect with people, that's the first step. I'm going to open their profiles, which triggers, I'm looking at you. That's one hook and worm. Second hook and worm is the asking to connect. So I need to communicate. You don't know me, but I'm professionally appropriate. And here's a little stroke to your ego. And so that's actually very, very simple. It's something as simple as I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that. And comma, of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. You don't know me, professionally appropriate, little stroke to the ego. Out of 25 to 30 of these that you send right off, I bet you get 10, 12 of them pretty quickly. Response back, oh, I know you want them all. It's not really about that. It's giving each of these people an opportunity to resonate your background in their head as they look at you, as they look at your headline of your packaged value that you bring to the table, why you're interesting. And then when the conversation starts behind the scenes about you, they'll be familiar with you already. Can help. Now, since this is a sales process, we don't wait. So I'm going to select 3, 4, or 5 individuals out of the entire 25 to 30. I've already opened. I've already asked them to connect, and I'm not waiting for the answer. Now, the 3, 4, 5 individuals, who do I think, because really your opinion is all that matters, who do I think would somehow be involved in the conversation for a person like me? This one, this one, this one, this one. Great. You pick 3, your odds are lower. You pick 5 every time, your odds of success are higher. We're always trying to pick 5 if possible. We can settle with 3 if we just can't come up with 5. All of these people, well, they should either be, one of them should be the decision maker, or they all know the decision maker. So your job is to be impressive. Now, in all of this information you're gathering, you're building equity, if you retain it, for your job search and managing your career. So you can download these forms right over my Self-Recruiter website. Just click on the advice tab, which is my blog, and look for the job search management system, totally free. You can download the forms. And basically, as you go after each company, you should be capturing the information and thinking about what comes next, who they are, what's involved, because all of these people will move around within your industry. And this is something that will be very valuable for you in the future, even though you may not be able to see it today. So job search is a sales process. To wrap up this part of it, we're going to choose the organizations, go after the individuals, open the profiles, ask them to connect, not wait for the answer. Email 3, 4, 5 decision makers directly, as if each one of them are the only person in the world. Dear Jeff, dear Jim, dear Jill, all of that. My job is to book a meeting and sell, because small little changes change everything. And my job is perception management. It means our script has to change too. We're probably going to have to talk differently about experience we've had in the past. It doesn't mean we're changing the experience, but we may have to highlight different things. As an example, I can't really say post-pandemic, but pandemic ongoing world, even though quite a few have returned to the office, there's quite a few that are all remote. So you have to be seamless, both on-site and remote. And if you haven't worked remotely, you may have to go back and tell that story a different way with different experience you've had, or different speaking opportunities, different educational opportunities you may have had, that all illustrate being able to be valuable at a distance over Zoom or whatever it may be. Technology itself doesn't really matter too much. So let's go back to the job search question of who the decision maker really is. We sometimes get really stuck on this decider. Okay, I get that stuff. And it's not really about the decider. It's about influencing everybody up and down that chain. Great example, years ago, I got into a placement process with one of my clients at the very, very last moment, like shortest placement ever that I had, 7 days start to finish. I'd called back a regular client, just a normal touch base, client call, just, hey, what's going on? Is there something out there type thing? And Eric suddenly goes, oh yeah, hey, so how you been? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just finishing up for Atlanta, just about done. I need your help on Tennessee and Kentucky. And we didn't have to talk in depth on what he needed for those territories. I'd placed many people with him. I knew what he was after. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But the only thing John keeps thinking is just about wrapped up on Atlanta. Just about wrapped up. You know what that is? Not wrapped up. That's the finish line. If I'd asked Eric permission to introduce someone at the finish line, he would have shut me down. Oh, no, we're at the finish. No, I'm fine here. I have it. I need Tennessee and Kentucky. It's like asking your parents for permission. You don't ask your parents for permission. You ask your parents for forgiveness. And so I told him what he needed to hear, which was also true, which is, hey, I'm going to get with my team, but let me get some calls out. We'll have some people for you really soon. I'll give you an update. Hang up the phone, and I, like a madman, pulling a superstar out of my database, qualifying them over the phone, getting them ready. I've got the superstar in 2.5 hours. I call Eric back for a little bit of an update. And hey, Eric. Of course, he has to hear what he needs to hear, which is still true. So met with my team. We got some calls out for Tennessee and Kentucky. We'll have someone for you very, very soon. By the way, little segue, little sales, little shift in tone. If you don't have an offer out for Atlanta, oh my gosh, do I have a superstar for you? They're at 200% of your quota. They're over at your competitor over here. They're available to talk at 3:30. I want to speak to them. I want to speak to them. Not how much, not at the last minute, none of that, because I got a superstar. How could you not squeeze a superstar into the conversation? That's how it works. And my superstar came in third. Remember what I said earlier about it being a winner? For a second or third, still a winner. So as a recruiter, I figured out why they were number 3. Why was number 2 number 2? And why was number 1 number 1? And having also worked with the Eastern VP before, I knew their whole style. And I also knew how Eric hired. Eric wouldn't send anybody up to the Eastern VP that he wouldn't hire himself. And then Eric would get counsel from the Eastern VP. And then even though the Eastern VP might go, well, I mean, I like this one, but Eric, you should hire who you'd like. Who does Eric hire every time? That one. Cover my behind. Let's get the buy-in. So you get the whole process. So now I had to really coach my client to understand that they can be number 1. Here's the VP's style. Here's why number 1 was number 1. Here's why number 2 was number 2. And here's what you have to do to beat both of them. And 7 days later, fastest placement. So the decider is not necessarily the decider is the point of that story. So think about all the people involved in the decision process. Get to the boss, boss's boss, boss's boss's boss. Everybody may have a different view of what needs to be hired. Even all 3 of them might have a different view. Whatever sector you're in, I think you know how to think about the titles and the food chain. If your titles vary a little bit, you got to adjust it just a little bit, but not too hard to figure out how this part of it works, and it will be very effective. Capture all of this information that you're gathering. Once you start capturing it, you're also layering it into your brain, which will make you much, much sharper. Now, getting to the decision makers, we have a few ways to get there. We can, of course, look for name mentions in books and articles and magazines and trade journals, especially, or certain websites for your niche or industry. So name mentions are a big thing, by the way. Basic sales technique. Every salesperson in the world uses it. It's about how you use it effectively in conversation. Referrals. So everybody you speak with, candidate, manager, HR person, everybody can give you a referral to another person that they really respect. Jack, who's the best person in XYZ you've worked with? That'd be Jim Jones. Boom. What's Jim's number? You have to learn how to ask questions and pick people's brains without triggering any evaluation layer. So they just regurgitate information. Referrals, very powerful way to get. That can help you a lot. The primary way we're going to find those individuals is through LinkedIn and our understanding of the typical org chart, really how we'll navigate that space and really understand, fill in the dots with ourselves and really get to those decision makers that we're really, really after. Let's take you in and show you some basics of how we do it. We're going to cover this again on Wednesday. It's also covered in that special video halfway down my homepage, selfrecruiter.com. So the top of any page is a unified search box. I'm going to go into that unified search box. And in this case, I'm searching for Informatica, big database middleware company. As I begin to type, I get this drop-down menu suggestions. Don't click on the drop-down. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Just don't do it. Type what you'd like, hit enter. And what you get is this nice secondary sorting process, because really I am looking to go look at Informatica's org chart, but as long as I'm here, there must be other organizations I'm not thinking of or escape my mind. So let me do a little brainstorming. Let's look under company. Where did they hide it? Oh, they hid it over there. Let's look under company. By the way, they're changing these menus all the time. So yes, get comfortable looking around a little bit. And they may even change the titles of some of the categories simply because they'd like to maybe limit your little bit of fishing expedition here. But in this case, I get the results back and it's 34,000 and everything I see is Informatica. Well, sure. After I get past a few dozen Informaticas that are directly related, who are the other tens of thousands on here? This used to be my field. I can tell you they're system integrators. They either resell or install Informatica software. If I am statistically right to work for Informatica, I am very likely statistically right to work for a great number of these organizations. So this is another alternate method here to put together statistically perfect lists that could benefit you. So, but once I have these lists, I'm really looking for people. So now I have to go, no, show me the people. People, there we go. 2.5 million. Cold and in the ground before I get through that list. I have to think because this is brainstorming, problem solving, and sales process, and a little bit of dating. You know what? Let me go in. Maybe I need the ones that really work in the US, the location. So give me the ones that just work in the US. I don't need them worldwide. And also, I don't need the ones that used to work for Informatica 3 years ago. I need the ones that work for Informatica now. So really US, really Informatica, 1,615 results. Oh, I like that. I can't look at 1,600 people, the same thing if they're going to cut me off. So let me think a little bit more clearly here. Who's going to hire me? Maybe it's a VP. I think a VP is going to hire me. Really US, really Informatica. Should mention this is all on the free version. I only use the free version. Everything I'm showing you, you can accomplish on the free version. 75 VPs, a lot of chiefs in that company. You know, maybe it's a director. Maybe that's what it is. A director, really US, really Informatica, brainstorming, problem solving to get there. 228 directors. Excuse me. I'm going the wrong way, but I know what it is. I know. I see the problem. It's a sales director. Problem solving. It's a sales director. And as long as I'm doing it, how about right down to New York City? And what do I get? 3. Perfect. I can stop now if I like low results. If you like the better results, I have to get to 5. Okay, so I got 3. That's great. Maybe there's a sales VP, not just sales director. Maybe there's a sales VP really in New York City, currently working. What do I get? There we go. 2 more. Now I'm up to 5. Fantastic. Excuse me. As I look at this one, though, some of them say connect, which I really like, and some, send InMail. Do you know what InMail is? Spam. It is literally the definition of spam. It is paid email. Please do not send email or InMail. You may not think it's spam, but I can tell you my inbox is full of well over 1,000 unopened nonsense messages. A lot of good messages get lost in there because there's so much nonsense spam messages sent through InMail. So please don't send that. It's not brain surgery to get anybody's email. That's 99% of the people's email you can get in 2 or 3 minutes. Pull their real email and send them a direct email if you need to connect with them. But don't settle for this InMail piece here. That's not really going to benefit you long term. So if I simply load Nick's profile as an example, yeah, they're going to frustrate me again with the send InMail. But if I click that ... look, they just hit the connect button just behind the little ... And there's the message I write one time ever. Copy and paste forevermore. It's a sales process. I have to capture this information. I have to learn and grow each time. I have to follow some people through their careers that will help me in my career, even 2 or 3 years from now. All of this is how you begin to build equity. This is how you begin to supercharge your job search. And it's a dating process, which means it has to be all about them, even while it's about you. So take the first step. Hi, this is John. Would you like to hire me? Forgot it was a dating process. We forgot it was a sales process. We forgot it had to be about them. Everything that we say has to be valuable to them, not why you're valuable, but how could something be valuable to them? And it's your job to be persuasive in that. All week long, in each of the sessions, we'll give you lots more detail that will help you quite a bit. I just want to leave you a little bit of a sneak peek to the outreach process itself, which we'll handle also a little bit more detailed as we go on through the week. But let's take you into this piece. This is part of the job search management forms you can download. The text on the left, by the way, is to guide you through as you write your own script. No, you're not really intended to write the script right this moment. It's much better that you absorb the structure on the right, everything that I say and teach you, Then use the reminders on the left to construct your own script. Script is a refinement process until it's organic and just flows off your tongue in a very natural way. Other thing I will give you as a secret to writing a script really just is about knowing what to say in advance, and that is you cannot write it in a grammatically perfect fashion. Now, I don't want you to murder the language. That's not what we're about. But this is not for your English teacher. Sorry, English teachers out there. This is a personal communication to someone individually, and we do not speak in a grammatically perfect fashion. So yes, maybe we do want to correct a few of the faux pas we might make in language use, but you also have to be organic and real. Otherwise, it's going to read like a canned ham and will not work. So watch the perfection. Structure is as simple as I'm going to greet them. I have to wait for the response. And by the way, I have to acknowledge the response. I'm terrible. I just can't pretend I didn't hear it. I have to acknowledge the response, good, bad, or ugly. I have to tell them why I'm calling. Get to the point. Tell them why I'm calling. Better be valuable for them. Small little things there. I think that I think you have to think about all of these kind of things. So once you start telling them why you're valuable, that's where you'll weave in something about your educational background. If you went to one of those special places, and you put that thing in there, and that'll help quite a bit. And really, it's 2 or 3 points about yourself for this particular role that you seem to think that somehow if they heard these things in combination with what you said already, oh gosh, they would scoot their chair forward, they would jump out of their chair, they would listen, they'd probably invite you in for interview. 2 or 3 key accomplishments, and then closing. Scary sales term. I know. Scary sales term, because really all you have to do is think about closing, what it really is. Now, most people have a misperception of what closing is. They have half an idea of what closing is. Oh, that's asking for what you like. No, that is half of closing, and half of closing is not closing. You have to ask for what you'd like, and you have to ask for agreement to it. The asking for agreement to it is where they go, no. So everyone's afraid of that, and they simply ask for what they'd like, and they hope they get it. That's not closing. So wouldn't you like to know what this sounds like? This is pretty simple. It's as simple as, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you this morning? Pause. Yes, by first name. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's Jack Welsh. Every single person by first name, because you have to be equal to any person you speak with. And of course, I have to say my name loud and clear and in a spacious way that they can hear it resonate, and their brain can go, I don't know John, and they're listening. If somehow I rush it and they have to ask me again, I'm sorry, who's calling? Who's calling? I've lost them already. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. Just like they should know who that is, but they probably won't. How are you this morning? And they're going to give you one of a few answers. One might be, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? Gosh, I love that answer. That's a really good one. Sets me up to keep going. Or they might respond like a trained dog, like Pavlov training the dogs, bring the dish of food out, and the dog salivates, and bring the dish of food out, start ringing the little bell, dog salivates. And you keep doing that over and over, and eventually you come out and ring the little bell, but no dish of food, dog salivates, same thing. And they might go, how are you this morning? And they might go, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? Trained dog, I'll take it. I keep going forward. Or they'll give me the response I don't want, which is, I'm terrible. Acknowledge the response. Okay, so let's back up and take it as the terrible. The other ones are very similar. You can figure those out. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you this morning? I'm terrible. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. Pause. Do you notice there's no change in my tempo or demeanor? It's just an acknowledgement, a handle, and right to the point. The reason for my call, tell them why I'm calling. The reason for my call, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited. It's a date. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. I saw your such and such article on your new initiative. So great to get that kind of coverage. A little stroke to the ego. Tell them why I'm calling. I mentioned that event for them, that initiative, because that's something I could add value. And so when I see something like that, I can just connect my value into it. Just, gosh, my background, I've handled a very similar initiative such as that. And then I have to just dangle a carrot to get the interview. I said, gosh, I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. That sounds like it'd be worth my time. I didn't even give a detail yet, but just enough. I know what's going on. I'd love to share it with you. That's worth that person's time. There's no misrepresentation. There's no misunderstanding here. Crystal clear. Everybody knows you're looking for a job. Notice I did not say the words, I'm looking for a job. That puts you in a subservient role that will not help you. You need to be an equal valuable person that they're willing and excited to discuss something with. Let them open the doors for you. After I dazzle them with those 2 or 3 things, I simply go, gosh, I have an opening, like it just occurred to me. I have an opening on my calendar. My calendar. Your words are very, very important. Tuesday at 10 a.m. One day, one time, never, ever more. And then you have to hand off control to them as if they have any control in this at all. Might that work for a brief meeting? The only concern is don't waste my time. Oh, brief meeting, I can handle that. Might makes them feel in control. And if the rest of it was about them, angled as a date, this will be a very valuable outcome. And in most cases, it's going to work really, really well for you. Will it work every time? Absolutely not. Will it work most of the time? Surprisingly, it'll work far more often than you think it will. It does involve you needing to practice. Not only do you need to practice this out loud if you don't have a friend, or I think you know a coach that can role play with you, but if you don't have a friend, just tape it and play it back and tape it and play it back. And even though we don't like the sound of our own voice, I totally, of course, get that. You have to let that part go and analyze the sales of what you're hearing. Your job is to persuade. So think about this script. It'll help you a lot. Refine it, practice it, and see what happens to you. You're either going to get or not get what you're after on that call. So you have to also go, I worked so hard to get to this individual. I have to get other stuff. What else can I get from this call that I'm not getting now? What else could I ask them? Is there something else I can say? What are they thinking? What can I leave them thinking? What do they think of my skills? I mean, is there something else I can do while I have them on the phone? And there really always is. I like something called how to really get an agreement for a relationship. It sounds to most people like, can I call you back to bother you? And if it sounds like that, they're not going to agree to it. When I was taught this as a recruiter, really in my very first year, I thought when they were teaching to me in my brain, I'm going, oh, this is hogwash. Come on, this doesn't even make sense. But I quit a very good job to take that recruiter job. So I'm like, well, I'll go through the training and commit and let's see what's here, even though it doesn't make sense. And suddenly I realized it's not literally in most cases about what you're about to be taught. It is about creating that relationship, that bond that's memorable. In a very, very tiny number of cases, yes, you may actually execute on this and go back and follow up and converse with them. But most of it is getting you lodged in their mental Rolodex, their mental contact file. So getting agreement to a relationship, take a look at this. You know, Jack, from time to time, I'll run into some interesting situation when speaking to others in the industry. You know, it could be helpful, or would be helpful, really, if to run a scenario by you on occasion. Would it be okay to call you for your opinion or your advice if something interesting were to come up in discussions? And your first thought is, oh my gosh, why is this person going to want to allow me to waste their time? Well, I'm not going to waste their time. I will not call 99% of these people because I won't have the right thing and we're not going to force it. But also if the right thing lands in my lap, I now have the permission to do it and I'll have a deeper relationship with them. Plus on their end, they're hearing, or you like my advice or my thoughts? And plus these decision makers in the industry also live in a bubble. They're so busy delivering for their companies, they don't know what's going on outside. You become a valuable resource tool for them. I was surprised how well that worked. It won me over to recruiting. Now, your job, though, is to not burn out those assets. So just because I go through the agreement process, which is really about just creating a tighter bond, doesn't mean I may ever speak to that person again. I may never pursue that thing again. But I'm trying to make as much warm bridges in all directions as possible. So when I do reach out to people I've already connected with, I don't want to burn out those assets. I'm not reaching out unless there's a true purpose. Otherwise, I'm not really going to sow the seeds of trust that I'm really after as that next really great person that they really want to hire. Another way you get toward the end of the conversation and you get or don't get what you're after is to ask that person to step into your shoes and look out of your eyes and give you advice. And you go, hey, Jack, I know with your background and position within the industry, yes, give it to them. You must hear things. Who do you know that's hiring right now? Well, I look at XYZ. How come Jack didn't say it before? It's not Jack's job to think of XYZ to tell me. It's my job to get Jack to think of XYZ and desire to tell me. So it's your job to lure them there that they want to tell you. This is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just nudge them a little bit, every little bit. With your background and position within the industry, Jack, if you had my background, what am I missing? Where should I be looking for the next opportunity? Well, have you thought about this track over here? All great advice you could get from nudging these conversations forward. This is how you begin to supercharge your job search. The steps are pretty clear to taking control of your job search. Run through everything that I taught you here today. In a few weeks' time, you will see a dramatic difference in outcome for callbacks and interviews beginning to happen and those type of activities. Your messaging and everything else has to be ready. So do watch all week long, and you have to have a system to capture all this information. This part's going to go really quickly because I talked to you about it all in between. Think about all the things that we have to review, and all these forms you can just download right from my website. That's the Self Recruiter website, just over under the advice tab. That's my blog. Just look for the job search management system, and this entire package here you can download. There's no cost, and it will help you understand how to set goals for the week, how to follow up on those goals for the next 8 weeks to improve your outcome, how to really use every single form to move each set of your skills forward in job search, whether that's how you approach the resume or how you handle the messaging on sending out the resume or how you handle the follow-up or the calling strategy. All of it's in there. So wherever you are in your job search process, take your first step and repeat, and let's get this engine moving. That's supercharging your job search for today. I will be back tomorrow. That's 11 a.m. with resume renovation. I'll be back on Wednesday with building your professional network with LinkedIn and really increasing the value of your career brand. That's turning your LinkedIn into a three-dimensional sales brochure. Thursday, that's 11 a.m. also. That is part 2 to my LinkedIn. That is career evolution. Now that I have a great LinkedIn profile, now how do I build a marketing campaign to promote it, manage it, and draw people to it? Friday, we're going to do interview intervention, all the secrets to be the best interviewer in the group. And then we're going to circle back on Monday. That is Halloween. Yes, we're for the Ask Self Recruiter live Q&A. So I thank you guys for joining in today. I really do appreciate it. Send in your questions for Ask Self Recruiter to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. All the best ones are automatically included. And thank you guys for joining in today. If you need help, check out the Self Recruiter website under the Services tab. All my packages are over there. If you need a little conversation before you know which package is right for you, just send me a quick direct email and we will have a little talk so you know which package may be the best one for your challenges. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please share it with your friends. And of course, whether you're watching on LinkedIn Live or Facebook or over on the YouTube channel, I hope you like, comment, share, message, send to your friends, all those kind of things. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a great one.